Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of the comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have the Bulldog side of things. Obviously, the Bulldogs aren't as inspiring to the team to the town because they're not winning. And because of that, also, they don't have the town support behind them. The Vixens are there, but they're not really cheering for them because obviously for Cheryl, she kind of feels like, it's not really worth it. And obviously, although the Bulldogs are down on themselves, but Archie's trying to inspire them to keep going no matter what, that they can change things around, they can turn things around. Because obviously, Ronnie's there for support too, being like, all right, first person who lands a touchdown gets $10,000. So it's like doing whatever they can. But obviously, you have Archie being like I said, that all-inspiring, trying to motivate them. But at the same time, Ronnie's trying to find another perspective. Obviously, they're trying to motivate not just the town but the team as well by having their pancake breakfast at Pops, having Pops sponsor the Bulldogs and everything, and obviously getting Cheryl involved. Which Cheryl was kind of like, I don't want to be involved with my Vixen showing up for this team, but Archie's like, fine. If you're going to do that, and he makes the announcement on the loudspeaker, okay, we're going free breakfast at Pops. Your team is, your Bulldogs are putting it out there all on the field. Can't you do the same thing for them? Back them up, have some damn team, team spirit. So, looks like the pancake breakfast thing is going well until Reggie shows up and it's like, yeah, the league wants you to bow out because you guys are stinking up the prestige of it. Losers. It's like, oh, come on, Reggie. Because even Archie's like, come on, Reggie. Winning is not everything. To be fair, Reggie kind of sadly, some of Reggie's aspects, it's probably some of that stems from his dad. We know his dad was abusive. So I think, sadly, on some level, that mentality, I think that's a sad thing, too. Him working for, a piece of crap like Hiram, I think it's on some subconscious level, it might be a byproduct of his dad. Someone who's kind of abusive in his own, I think there's some correlation that could be drawn there. Once again, from a psychological standpoint, maybe I'm trying to read too deeply into it, but I think there's something there. But because I think even when he was a Bulldog, it was all about winning as well. So because it's probably when we were Bulldogs, we weren't such losers as your team, Archie. So. And obviously one of his best players, Derek, gets transferred to Stonewall because during the breakfast, his mom was talking to Archie about, for her, it's I need my son to have prospects of getting out of Riverdale. Football could be a means to a scholarship and everything. And obviously he was, their best player, but he got transferred to Stonewall Prep because I'm sure that was either Reggie or Hiram's decision to kind of grease the palms like that, just because it's or either his mom made that deal kind of behind the back. Who knows? Obviously, the team is a little disheartened because it's now they're down one player, so they can't even play. But also, Derek was their best player, but Archie was we're going to find a way around this. Ronnie makes a deal with her dad. It's if we land even one touchdown on your team, you back off trying to get us out of the league and all that. Which obviously Hiram's so sure of himself, so cocky, so just insufferable. Oh yeah, done deal. We got this. So, luckily, with a little bit of Ronnie pulling some of that lodge magic, she's able to kind of, bring in someone from the New York Giants. It's dude, I think it was the New York Giants, right? And it's holy crap, and he's able to help inspire them too. It's yo, I was from a small town like this, and I had a coach like Archie, pushing me to be everything I could be out on the field. And I am here today because of stuff like that. So, and luckily that also inspired so many other people. It's got other people who were willing to join the team. And when it actually comes down to the game, obviously Cheryl going out there with the Vixens. Once again, coaches normally don't get out there with their cheerleaders, but once again, these are her Vixens. And Cheryl kind of has to be the center of the show to a certain extent. So I'm going out there killing it. I won't lie to you, that entire football game, you're yeah, I'm not the biggest football fan. I enjoy it somewhat as a sport. But it's just this, it felt like a Rudy moment. Especially when Britt is running and dodging everybody and the team is blocking. I'm yeah. it's like when she has that touchdown, it's like it is legitimate, like a Rudy moment of you're like, yeah. It's like this is so inspiring. It just like literally makes you want to beat on your chest, like yeah. It's one of those moments. You're just like one of those feel good moments. It literally feels like one of those like feel good sports movies or something like that there's been a ton of. It felt like that, and I was like, yeah. You know what actually kind of makes me, it's a weird reference to make it, because I've been rewatching the music video recently, just because I love the song and I hadn't listened to it in years, was Alice Anna's song Seduction. Their music video for it is kind of similar to like that. They're basically playing, except it's a basketball game. It kind of reminds me of that to a certain extent. And like, yeah, they lose the game, but still it's just, oh my God, yeah, we have so much fun type of thing of like, yeah, we did it anyway. Like, that's what it reminds me of. Side note, if you've never heard that song by Alice Anna, you should. It's a really good song. Like I said, it's one of their older songs, I think from many, many years ago, but it's still a really good song. It's a real cool music video in that regard. Regardless, tangents and all that aside. Dude, it was just, like I said, it was just that inspired moment. Yeah. And also to see Hiram, like, break his board. Because I thought it was really interesting because he's like, this team isn't supposed to be inspiring. So earlier in the episode, he's telling Reggie, like, yeah, I need you to do something. And Reggie's like, whoa, I'm not going to break some kid's legs for no reason. So it shows that, yeah, Reggie will go so far in certain regards. Like, yeah, I'll do some schemy stuff. Sure. I'll be kind of responsible for burning down Archie's house. I guess that's one thing. I think it's like, that's actually, I just thought about that too, because I made that reference about his dad. That might be why he's not willing to do that, because of his dad. It's like having an adult beat down on a kid. It's like he's been in that situation, so he's not going to do that to another kid. Archie's house, that's one thing, because Archie's a full-grown adult, so it's like whatever you do to him, it's an even playing field. Picking on someone weaker than him, like, yes, Reggie's kind of doing it to a certain extent, but going that extent, like, you know, and then because of that, Hiram's like, oh, so he's like, well, then you're just going to have to be bitched, and I'll take care of the Stonewall Preps. And, Reggie's like, all right, you go ahead. I will be cheering with the Bulldogs, and he's in the stand. So it's interesting the line that Reggie walks. Like, Reggie isn't the complete and utter scumbag. He can be scumbaggish, but I think even it shows that even he has his limits. I mean, to be fair, we know Hiram's not above doing that crap, because literally had a boxing match with Archie and stuff like that. It's like, obviously he's willing to go as far as he did against Archie when Archie was still in high school. So it shows you he's not above, like, swinging down low, like, on people lower than him. In fact, he, like, loves it because it makes him feel that much more triumphant. But I think that moment is just him smashing his board and everything. It's like, yeah, in your face. So it was an inspiring moment. So it's one of those things I'm so interested to see where the Bulldogs go from here, because I think that's just like, it's like a yeah moment that, rallying behind. So what that means for Riverdale in the long run, what it just means for the Bulldogs in general, and it's also nice to have Archie putting towards his energy, obviously, towards something good. Obviously, for so long, like, we've seen that darkness in Archie, and to see him kind of taking a lot of that, and like I said, doing some good with it, I think it's pretty dope. Obviously, another aspect to this episode is everything with Betty, and I thought was really interesting in the sense that trying to be there for her mom, who's kind of been broken down, because it's like, yeah, that blood on that phone booth, it has to be Paulie's, because she just called us from there like 30 minutes before we got there. Who else blood could it be? And she gets a call from Glenn, and Glenn's like, yeah, it's AB negative, it has to be your sister. And it's like, and Betty's upset because it's like, you don't care, Glenn. You should have been here helping me with this investigation a long time ago, but you weren't. Like, I didn't get the FBI backing I should have gotten for this case. So, and obviously she goes to Cheryl about this, because it's like, when you found out Jason had disappeared, like, and did you want to know the truth about him being dead? It's like, because at least not knowing it takes away all your hope, because like, oh, this person's not coming back. But at least if you thought they were still alive, like, if you thought Jason was still alive, there's still that hope that, hey, he might come back to you. And obviously, Cheryl talks about, yes, like, that the truth is a heavy thing, like that. Yes, it sucks, but at the very least, it gives you an opportunity to grieve. Like, it doesn't make it any easier, but it allows you to grieve at the very least. So the truth is worth knowing in that regard. But obviously for Betty, she's seen what her mom's been like, just not knowing, like she doesn't know that it's Paulie's blood, but on some level she does. And she's broken down like that. It's like, I don't know what actually telling the truth is going to do. And when it comes down to it, Betty doesn't. She lies and says, oh, the blood was O negative or something like that. And her mom's like, oh, thank you. Oh, my little girl's still out there somewhere. And the next day, it's like Alice is like a completely different person. She's like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff. Oh, the support group, you were right. So, and she's seeing like a completely different side of her mom. And it's just like, it's understand, like, in no shape or form do I blame Betty for doing what she did. That's an impossible decision. Like, it's like, she's trying to spare her mom's feelings. Like, she's trying to, like, because you don't know what kind of despair that's going to send her mom in. At the very least, if there's hope. But it's at the same time, it's like when the hope is there and it's like she got that hope back just to have it taken from her, we don't know what that's going to do to her in the long run. And it's just, there is no easy solution to this. It could easily just be like, well, just tell her the truth. I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't think there is a right and wrong in that situation. It's just like at the end of the day, you're just trying to do the best that you can, you know? And especially in her case, because I think for her, it's like, she's taken on a lot of guilt personally because she's like, I wasn't there when my family needed me. Like, in particular, my sister, like, she's replaying in her head about Polly saying, like, you don't get to come into town after being gone all this time and just come back in one day and just, like, think you know all there is to know about my life and judge me. It's like, that's also the thing. Like, I wasn't there for my sister. Like, they haven't been, like, she hasn't really interacted with Polly, at least the way to our understanding, since the whole farm situation. That phone call and everything from the aftermath of the farm, that's the last time that we, at least within the confines of the show, I think that they've made clear it's like one of the last times they interacted. So their relationship wasn't on the best terms then, and obviously it's never had an opportunity to, like, get better, you know? So I think a lot of that guilt is what's driving Betty. Obviously, she goes out there with Jughead to investigate Dreyfus because he's saying, like, whoever's that phone booth ending up like that, it's not the first time. He's saying it's the Mothman, which obviously Jughead, when he hears him bring up the Mothman, he's like, damn it, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, because Betty's looking at him like, this guy's crazy, but Jughead's like, there's so much stuff that happened in Riverdale that can't be explained, and she's obviously trying to say that it's not a thing that took these women and Polly, it's a person. So Jughead's kind of caught in that space of between him kind of wanting, him believing it to be aliens while also trying to, I think, convince himself it's not, but he's going deeper and down rabbit hole. Once again, I don't think it's actually aliens. I believe it is just someone stealing, like, kidnapping and maybe experimenting on kids, hence why they don't remember. Either they're doing that on purpose, or either that's a byproduct of whatever experimentation. Like I said, they still could be experimenting on it and then wiping their memory. Like I said, I think this is like some crazed fringe military scientist or group doing this, and they've been doing it for a long time in Riverdale, because Riverdale's a small town where it's like people go missing all the time, like, it's, you know, and as long as no one kind of drew too much attention to it, was fine. But regardless, all of this, I think that was the point of that, when, like, Betty's, like, listening to those voices and then she looks in the mirror. I think that was her kind of going dark side Betty. She hasn't gone dark side Betty in a long time, at least that we're aware of. There's been 7 years. We don't know what transpired. I mean, obviously we know because of TBK, like, she's got some PTSD, and so all of that just, like, triggered her to go dark side Betty. She goes to the truck stop where all the truckers are with the ladies, and, like, was busting heads. And in particular, she found the guy, wasn't named John or whatever, that was with Polly, and he's like, you have not known me, you can't arrest me. She's like, you're right, I'm not. Drags him out in the woods and is pistol whipping the shit out of him. You're like, whoa. And obviously, for, you know, it's like, he's like, I didn't do anything, like, you know, it's like, you're still taking advantage of girls, and now my sister's going, you know, he's like, I have a family. She's like, I had a sister. Like, you know, cocks the gun. You're like, dude, is she about to really do this? Luckily, Jughead calls at the time and kind of, she doesn't pull the trigger. She's like, I'll call someone to come cut you free tomorrow. If I remember. I was like, Jesus, Betty. There's no telling who's potentially watching in the woods at that point in time. You never know. Someone could have been nearby watching that. Maybe not. So, maybe when, sadly, when Betty comes back, it's probably, she might end up finding John dead. And obviously everything's going to link to her because she was the one that took him. There might be evidence that she took him, and all the pistol whip marks. Like, it might all point towards her. But obviously this deals with like Jughead's side of the things, because obviously one of his students turned in a story, and obviously there was a lot of disturbing details, and obviously Jughead sees it as like the kid potentially, Lerman using it as a means of dealing with his trauma, putting it to page, because obviously he brings it up to Weatherby, which Weatherby's like, yeah, the kids had this, and they're like, it's like, whoa, black eye, broken arm, and like, we're not looking into that. He's like, I vetted the family, they seem nice, but I'm like, even I was like, come on, that seems like potential abuse at home, And obviously Jughead's asking, like, is there something going on at home? Like, the story he's written, kind of the graphic details, being locked up, taken to a spaceship, experimented on. But then, obviously, Jughead, Lerman's parents find out, and they eviscerate Jughead for doing what he did. Which, even Jughead tried to say, like, I didn't go out of my... Like, I didn't, like try to, like, corner your son or something. Like, I just had to which Weatherby is like, you screw up any more from here, you're done. But then they find out Lerman's been missing, so luckily Betty finds him just in a daze on a highway, and he's like, it happened again? And finally have a conversation. It turns out they aren't an abusive family. It is like a thing of him sleepwalking, and he's like, they've had to like lock him in the basement just because he has fallen out the window. So like, legitimately, the way the story is being painted is like, no, it's not on them. Like, stuff is just legitimately like he's sleepwalking and ended up hurting himself. And so they got so mad at Jughead because they were worried that him bringing some of that stuff to light would kind of bring this back. Like, it seems like he hasn't done it in a while, or at the very least, for them, it's like he managed to get out one time and he was going an entire week. And then he returned, like, on the lonely highway, and it's like he kind of keeps subconsciously going back there. They have no idea what happened to him. And obviously, Jughead, is talking with Betty, and obviously it's like, right, Mom had said that Polly had said something almost like she was on an alien spaceship. So I think it is a thing of like, the blood from the phone booth, the reason why it's like that is most likely from the truck, because we know the truck is responsible for all the that must be their like kidnapper and disposer. Like, whoever's in that truck, it's like, you kidnap these people that won't, like, because that's also the big thing. Why is it that Lerman got away but no one else did? It might be a thing of all the people who died have some similarity of, like, maybe there's some genetic thing that they have that who's ever experimenting on them, like, pushes the experiments too far and they die, and people who are unnecessary is like, oh, this person, like Lerman, doesn't have what we need, just let him go, wipe their memory. Probably that, I don't know. Or maybe the memory wipe doesn't work for everybody, so for the people that it doesn't work on, sadly, it ends up being those young ladies that end up getting killed, so... And that's also the thing, too, like, up till now, it's been a whole bunch of missing women. For Lerman to be the first dude, too, I mean, who's to say there weren't other dudes as well? I mean, well, to be fair, we know there were, because there were the people that were taken. To be fair, that's also another thing, too, like, all the people in the past, the Mothman thing, were mainly men, if I'm not mistaken, and they were the ones that got set free, so it's like, maybe it is legitimately they're letting guys go because maybe there's something in these particular women, maybe something in their DNA, some genetic thing that they're after or whatever they're doing. I don't know. That's all I can like allocate to that at this point in time. Sadly, at the end of the day, like Lerman left with his family. They just left no forwarding address, which Weatherby's like, I guess they just wanted a fresh start, which Jughead's like, don't we all want that? Everyone in Riverdale wants that after everything that's happened in Riverdale, of course. So there's that side of things. Then you have Betty coming home and her mom's crying. I'm like, oh, someone told her the truth. And lo and behold, home dude Gray Holston's character from the FBI shows up, and it's like you didn't tell your mom the truth, yada yada yada. And obviously Alice is upset with her. It's like, you lied to me. And obviously he's like, I'm taking over this investigation. It's like, wait, what? Like, that to me is the most suspicious thing. You was like, wait, you're taking over this investigation? So I know, weren't you supposed to be working the TBK stuff? Why are you here now? Like, maybe it's because he has feelings for Betty and he thinks, like, oh, by doing this, like... Well, because they are a couple, aren't they? Like, obviously, I think kind of Betty's kind of pushed that aside. A lot of relationships have changed. Obviously, we see that with Veronica and her marriage, so maybe things are kind of in a similar boat with Betty and her relationship. Regardless... I think it's so suspicious that he decides to show up, and it's like Betty's like, you didn't care before, but now you're doing it now. Maybe it's because he feels so guilty, he wants to make it up to her, or he has some involvement into this. Part of me is also wondering, like, you don't think he's going to end up being revealed to be TBK, because that's the case he's supposed to be working on. He kind of went out of his way to make sure that Betty knew that, like, and part of me is like, do you think he enjoys the game and that he wanted Betty to, like, once again, conspiracy theory, conspiracy tinfoil hat on right now, throwing out some wild theories, just wondering. Could it be that he's TBK and he wants her back in this investigation? He loves the cat and mouse thing they got going on, and she's not going to be focusing on him if she's distracted with this case with her sister. So he decides to show up. Hey, I'm going to help this, because the moment this gets solved, you can get back to the whole me and you, because you don't know I'm TBK thing. Once again, wild theory I'm throwing out there. Doesn't have any, there's not necessarily pointing to that being true. Just a wild out of way out in outer space theory that I'm throwing out there. Yes, I not necessarily a pun, but intended with the outer space. Regardless, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see where Betty and her mom stand after this, because it's like, once again, Betty did it to protect her mom's feelings, because it's like, if I told you the truth, you would have fallen apart. But it's also the thing of, it was my truth to know. Who are you to take that away from me of how I would have reacted to it? Because at the end of the day, it's my decision to do what I will do with that information. If I'm going to break down because of it, then that's my choice. Like, you just had no right to take that away from me, the truth. So that's the complicated aspect to it. So we'll see. And another, very sad aspect to this episode is the whole Kevin situation. Because obviously, Tom is asking him, like, oh, like, what happened? Like, you and Fang, are you talking about being married and having a kid? And, obviously, you had Kevin say this line of like, I just, probably wasn't for me. And Tom was like, whoa, do you actually think you don't deserve happiness? And he's like, yeah, you know what, Dad, I don't want to talk about it. Then you have Cheryl trying to make amends by being like, yeah, my games were a little messed up and Tony may never forgive me, but I wanted to repair things between you. And it's like, well, that game of hers opened up a lot of, stuff that was already there. A lot of open wounds that were there they just didn't realize and weren't really dealing with. And Fang is talking about the fact is, are you ashamed of being gay? And Kevin's like, I'm not ashamed of being gay. He's like, yeah, but just like, you never give yourself all to a relationship. You do the whole hooking up with random guys. It's like, you just kind of been scared of an actual relationship is kind of what Fang has said. Because, like, it does seem like, because Kevin's kind of made a point to kind of, he's the one that suggested, hey, like, let's kind of have fun outside of our relationship, making an open relationship. Because I think for him, it's like, committing to one person is hard. And obviously for him, it's just like, I don't want to talk about this. Because Fang is like, you don't really open up. He's like, I want to know all there is to know about you. And Kevin was just like, I'm done with this. And he's in like a spa room or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, guys from California, they're hot, and he's kind of hitting on this guy, and he touches him, and the guy beats up Kevin, and it's like, I hope they found him, I hope Tom was able to find that guy and arrest him or something. It's like, fuck that guy. He's like, Kevin was like, I'm sorry, I misread the situation, and he beat Kevin for nothing. And I was like, that was like such a heartbreaking aspect of the episode. And Tom and Kevin actually talk, And I think Kevin ends up, admitting to himself, and I thought, he was like, I'm ashamed to be gay, which I was like, wait, you are? I mean, and I think that in itself is kind of like, just because like, Kevin always seemed like he embraced being gay. Like, that's why I'm like, it never seemed like there was any shame there. But it's like, just because someone outwardly admits, you never know what someone's holding on the inside. That there, I think, and now it kind of explains, like, it stems from his mom, because his mom had made an offhand comment about, need to buy you some husky clothes. And it's like, for him, it's like, oh, like, I think in his mind, he was like, he interpreted that as, and that's probably was her point, was, need to find you some more, like, manlier clothes. And obviously, like, he ran to that. Obviously, he's like, I didn't know this was a spot for hooking up, but he just ran there just to be alone, and someone told him he looked cute. And it's like, on some level, he's always been ashamed of being gay just because of his mom's remark. There's that one remark he brings up, but we have no idea what else, like, has been, like, maybe it's some more subtle things his mom said, maybe some other outward things that we've said. Because we've never had too much, has she ever even popped up in the show? We've heard her being referenced in the past, I believe, but they've never really gone to the ins and outs about. I don't remember because I know she was in the military, wasn't she? Or is. I don't think she died, did she? Like I said, I don't remember. I've remembered his mom popping up storyline wise. Conversation. I don't think she's ever been in the show to my recollection. Like I said, I don't remember. Someone in the comments will probably fill me in on about that. Like I said, I just don't remember too much coming up about his mom. But nevertheless, but for him, it's like he feels like there's something wired wrong with him, that he feels this way and that he's acting out this way in that regard of just like, that's why he kind of feels like he can't commit to one person, just because it is a thing of some shame of like, kind of like, oh, like, it feels like he's almost disgusted by himself of being like, oh, like, I need, like, this is the only form of love I deserve. I don't deserve to be happy. Like I said, we don't know what other contributing factors are to that, but it was like, that was, like I said, that was just a heartbreaking, like, conversation between him and his dad, because at first Tom was like, if it was something I did I do something? He's like, no, Dad, you've always accepted me. I think it's like not his mom not being the thing, because like, I think regardless of how many people support you, the people that don't is what's going to drag you the most, especially in his case, if it's his mom. Like, having even one of your parents not accept you for you being you and just kind of like downplaying who you are and kind of just, you know, like, I think that in itself could definitely create issues, because it's like, if you don't have, it can suck probably not having your parents in your corner on anything. Luckily he has his dad, but like, that situation with his mom might have kind of created this complex in his head about, you know, making him kind of feel like have a low opinion of himself, you know. So I'm interested to see where things kind of go on that front, you know, diving deeper into that, and you know, whether that means things can kind of change between Fang and Kevin now that like he's kind of come to that realization that maybe talking more with people can kind of like help heal some of those psychological wounds, you know. So we'll see where all of this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, low light to the force, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.